we're just swimming in a sea of health and wellness soup. People are just trying to grab any kind of lifeline while they're in the sea bouncing around with anyone else for anything. And it just becomes what this guy has like a 4-hour morning routine, right? That's going to set the tone for the day. It just is crazy.
Welcome to Elevated Life, Real Wellness and Transformation Podcast, where we walk alongside the internally driven individual as they transform their life through wellness, movement, mindset, and personal responsibility. If that's you, you're in the right place. Let's jump in.
One of the most optimized humans on the planet can still develop an autoimmune. Maybe health isn't just about supplements, red light therapy, cold plunges, and biomarkers. Maybe it's time to ask the bigger question. Have we made health so incredibly complicated that we've lost sight of what it really means to be well? Yeah, so who are we talking about?
We are talking about Brian Johnson.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about Brian Johnson. You know more than I do.
I know a little bit. And, you know, I think in the interest of full disclosure, this podcast isn't necessarily about him. You know, like we're not, it's just, it was kind of a jumping off point when he announced a few days ago on Twitter, on X, that he's got an autoimmune gastritis or something like that.
So if you don't know who this dude is, who is he?
Sorry, yeah. So I just wanted to say that because we're not given like a huge bio or anything.
No.
Basically, he's a guy who, like in his 40s, essentially decided after he just seemed to be living a relatively normal, you know, had a couple kids, a corporate job, and then all the stresses and weight gain and stuff, and decided essentially he wanted to beat death. Yeah. And has really made that his mission. And he's got a new organization. I was reading some of his tweets. They offer, one protocol that they offer is $1 million a year. Yeah. So you could just buy it, you know, for $1 million a year. Right. And they walk you through. And you know,
he created this protocol?
And
or it's one of
his team. Okay. Yeah, he created a whole company and organization around this idea that he was basically going to defeat death, and his mindset toward it is supplements and getting, you know, he gets everything tested all the time. You know, just as an example for this latest autoimmune thing, he wrote a couple days ago on Twitter, he took 23 vials of his own blood to do like 50 different tests and decode 1 million or 1 billion immune cells or something. So he's a dude that's constantly trying to use every scientific and technological breakthrough and supplement and, you know, all those things to hack death, so to speak.
And spoiler alert, he was just diagnosed with autoimmune, which I like to call the unprocessed trauma disease. And this is not in every case, but in my doctor mind, because most doctors are like, we don't know what this is from. We don't know what this is from. And we know that
we're going to throw 100 different things at you,
but we know better than
hopefully something will figure it out. But yeah.
We know better, but we don't know. Yeah. So I find this really interesting because I know that he has openly talked about just some stuff with his dad and having massive depression and wanting to die. And I don't know this for sure. So just for conversation's sake, we're going to say that maybe he didn't deal with these issues and maybe just shifted his gaze to, I'm going to take every outside source that I possibly can to get this healthy without actually going inward.
Yeah. And just, I think a little more than anecdotal evidence to support what you just said is he has several lengthy posts over the last couple days on social media. I would assume it's probably on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. I just saw it on Twitter X. But like lengthy, several minute long reads, which is huge on social media.
Yeah.
That talks about, goes into great detail on all the different tests that he's doing and all the different things he's looking for, all the different data points, so to speak. Nowhere in those does he even talk about even stress, let alone,
therapy.
the deeper.
I'm going to go to therapy and see why I have gut issues. I mean, it's basically like I have gut issues, right? So it's not funny. I'm not laughing at all at this. I'm actually really curious to see how I want to follow this over the years because he might have a breakdown and like cry several times and maybe start to metabolize whatever issues, that he has. We'll see how that works. So
I also think it's important just to know, and I mean, if you listen to this, it probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. We are both, I think I can speak for you, when we say we're both of the thought that maybe he's going to a little more extreme than he needs to with all of his stuff, right?
Yeah, very extreme.
But I don't think either of us are sitting here saying, all he needs is therapy.
No.
No. We
so much more
obviously
than that.
think that the health side, the doctor health side of it is important too.
Sure.
Is figuring things out, figuring out if you're low on, if your hormones are imbalanced or if you're low on key vitamins and nutrients and stuff. That's also important to know and handle.
Right.
And therapy isn't going to fix that.
No.
But there's a balance, and that's really what we're talking about today.
Yeah, we're talking about how everything is so confusing in the space of health and wellness because, we have so much information out there, and it just becomes like this dude who's spending $2 million a year trying not to die, or just be in optimal health. I don't know, what his real deep-seated reasons are for wanting to spend that much money on staying on this planet. That just seems, insane alone. But there's just, there's a lot of information out there. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So
today.
Do we want to
jump in, sir.
jump in point by point?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey friends, if you're getting something out of this, connect with us on our social media platforms. We're at CJ Elevated Life _ on Instagram and TikTok, and CJ Elevated Life on Facebook and X. We're answering DMs, sharing daily content, and building community with people ready for real transformation. For now, hit subscribe wherever you're listening, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We drop 2 new episodes every week. And if this episode resonates, share it. That's how we reach more people who are ready for change. You can also find everything at cjelevatedlife.com. All right, let's keep going.
Well, point 1 is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There is a ton of information, but it's so important to remember that information is not the same as wisdom.
No.
So being bombarded with data points and just all the different ways that we can consume that information now, social media, podcasts. We're certainly not talking bad about social media or podcasts
but it can be a lot.
But,
I mean, even I get overwhelmed by it. Go ahead, keep going, because these are important points.
Yeah, the news, ads, AI now all of a sudden is a new thing that
and
is
there's so
cropping
many
up.
fake influencers that are just AI.
Yeah, fascinating. Influencers,
Yeah.
real or fake.
Yeah.
And then even because those ones are kind of like you can hold those ones kind of at arm's length.
distance.
Yeah. But then you get into friends and family and fitness coaches and your personal doctor or doctors or whatever. There's a wide range of information, and we'll get into some of the reasons why, but especially if you go to like friends and family and that kind of thing, they're probably incentivized by wanting to help.
Yeah, and their own personal stories, right?
But that doesn't equal wisdom for you.
No.
That just means they have something in their head.
Right. They have thoughts and they want to share them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's basically it. But just to make the point that there's so much information out there and we've really just overcomplicated it. And so now we're going to unpack that and try to make it not as complicated. Right. So also we have to realize that everyone has a financial incentive. It's not, necessarily bad, but there is, there's a lot of people making a lot of money in the wellness space, right? So there's doctors that have practices, gyms that have membership, supplement companies that sell supplements. That is the most confusing thing, in my personal opinion, along with fitness influencers selling courses. And, we sell Rebuilt, so I get it. Food companies selling food, drug companies selling medication, tech companies selling wearable devices, social media companies selling attention. And so there's this incentive, financial incentive. And we already did a podcast about the wellness industry and how it blows the water out of the pharmaceutical industry in terms of how much money people spend. And apparently, this dude, Brian, is spending $2 million bucks a year. So,
and it might even be more than that now. That was just a number I remember.
I mean, there's a lot of financial gain behind it. And it's really hard to weed out who's being authentic and, who isn't. And do I really care if they're being authentic? Do I want to listen to them because it's my body? All the things.
I think it's important to note on this one that just because somebody is selling something doesn't make it bad. Doesn't mean it's nefarious. And also, just because somebody is giving away something for free doesn't make it good.
Right.
So there are, valuable things that, we talk a lot about, and now I can't even come up with the phrase off the top of my head, but currency is the...
Consistency is the...
Okay, I'm thinking of a different one.
Oh.
Anyway.
I'm like, what is that saying we say?
It's a very real fact that oftentimes good things cost money.
For sure.
And
I mean,
the people who put this stuff together, who do have the wisdom, should be seeing financial compensation for taking the time to gain the wisdom and package it and be able to get it out to people.
Right.
So it doesn't automatically make it bad, but for every one that's good or that's applicable to you, there are 1,000 people that are just trying to get $20 off you or $100 off you or whatever.
Sure, and I just think we're just swimming in a sea of health and wellness soup, and basically people are just trying to grab any kind of lifeline while they're in the sea, bouncing around with anyone else. For anything.
Yeah.
And it just becomes what this guy has like a 4-hour morning routine, right? Because that's going to set the tone for the day. It just is crazy. I mean, and I don't want to call him crazy, right? He's on his own journey. But we've just overcomplicated this so much in the information age.
It makes you feel like, if I'm not doing the same thing as him, well, I'm basically already dead. Because that's the way that you have longevity. And maybe it's working for him, but it's not a requirement, I guess what we're saying. So kind of back to that last point with social media and, having so much... One of the problems with it, and I say social media, but this is well before. I think this is probably from the dawn of communication. Is we'll go with social media though, rewards extremes.
Yeah, it does.
And we've talked about this so many times. Our constant refrain: eat whole foods, move your body.
Yeah, well,
there's nothing extreme about that. That doesn't grab headlines. That doesn't grab clicks. It's always the the carnivore changed my life, or veganism is the only way to go,
Right.
Or here's this one food that's destroying your liver,
Yeah.
or, something like that.
Yeah.
That's going to be what gets the clicks, because it's just the way, I guess, we work as humans. We're looking for that extreme.
Yeah, well, fear sells. I mean, look at the news,
Yeah.
right? It's just, it's gobbled up. And outrage sells, but nuance doesn't, right? Like, just moderation is not going to go viral. It isn't. Like you just got through saying, eating whole foods and then listening to your body on how your body processes that isn't going to go viral, or isn't going to, be flung out to the masses, because it doesn't pit one group against another group. It doesn't pit the vegans against the carnivores, right? That's not what it does.
It also isn't going to, if we go back to the financial incentives, it's not going to generate, people aren't going to pay money to read Eat Whole Foods and Move Your Body.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I already know that.
Yeah.
I don't do it.
Right.
And I want a quick fix, and I'll pay for the quick fix.
Yeah.
But I don't need to pay somebody to tell me what I already know.
Right.
Like, therein lies the problem.
Right. Exactly. Okay, go for it. What's
Yeah,
next,
the next
sir?
one, and this, again, gets back to kind of what we've talked about on a couple podcasts. Health has become now an identity.
Yeah.
It's not just, I'm a dude and this is part of, or a chick, whatever, male,
Yeah.
female, that doesn't matter. But I live this life, and
Yeah.
part of it is, here's what I eat. Part of it is, here's what I do for exercise. Part of it is me crocheting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it went from, this is just part of who I am,
Yeah.
to health is what I am.
Yeah. And I see that all the time on, social media. It's just like people's entire identity. And I get it, because I know that, for me, I struggled with this too. And then when we branched out with Elevated Life, when we rebranded, it was like, I don't want to talk about how many grams of protein the average person should eat in a day, even though it's one of the top Googled things right now for health and wellness. And it's just like, oh my goodness, I don't want to feed into, Elevated Life does not want to feed into the health and wellness soup clusterfuck that is out there. We're really trying to just keep it simple and easy for the average Joe, not lie about, how long it's going to take to be a 10 or have a 6-pack or any of those things. We're real humans living real lives. And that does not mean that we're constantly counting our calories and our macros. And if someone else wants to spend the time to do that, I have no problem with that. I want to talk to everyday Joe who wants to eat the way we were designed to eat and move the way we were designed to move.
Hey, quick pause. If this episode is hitting you and you're ready for real tools, here's what we built.
Head on over to cjelevatedlife.com, pick up the Rebuilt Method for Men
Whoa.
or the Rebuilt Method for Women, just $67 each. We also created the Parasite Detox Blueprint at $37. And this is actually the exact protocol we use ourselves.
And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter. You'll get the weekly action steps and new tools we've tested ourselves. Let's get back to the episode.
Go ahead, sir.
Yep.
Your turn.
All right. It kind of goes back, or that kind of leads into this, which really is just a summary of 100 of the 130 podcasts or whatever that we've done. We've really forgotten the basics.
Yeah.
And so just, a quick, constantly looking for a new supplement. I mean, you talk all the time about how you would have clients come to you, or people on forums or whatever, like, what herb fixes this?
Yeah.
And, what thing fixes, like, well, move your body. Stop eating sugar. So it's really just sleep, water, protein, movement, sunlight, strength training, stress management, healthy relationships, whole foods, consistency.
Yeah. Walking.
I mean, it's just.
And it's rinse and repeat. That's the thing that is so blah, right? It's like, hey, it isn't fancy, guys. It's not fancy. And listener, I want you to spread this word. If you've been listening and, you've followed us for a while and you're doing, Whole Foods, and tell people this. I mean, you don't have to tell them about Elevated Life, but tell them to, stop overcomplicating things. It really is just about this. And I want to just pinpoint like stress management and healthy relationships. That's where we get into, like, in my opinion, the autoimmune, the shame game, the, all of the things that we internalize. Our body builds a shell, right? So when, one of the other things that is the most Googled is, how come I'm not losing fat? And I'm counting all my macros and working out. And I'm like, okay, but have you dealt with the armor that you've built around your body because of all of the rejection issues that you have, the core mother wounds, the core father wounds? Have you dealt with those? Because the body builds an armor around itself.
And if you're relatively new to this podcast, I definitely recommend going back and listening to Jonna's story about that, because that, that's your proof.
Right.
That's what it is. And we don't need to get into it obviously right now, but it's definitely worth a listen as a real life example of, I do all the things, it's not working. Oh, I focused on that a little bit. All of a sudden,
right,
now everything else is working.
Well, and my cousin as well, right? I've shared that story about how my cousin gained 100 pounds in a terrible relationship. And when she left the relationship and started going into therapy and just kind of unpacking things, she didn't change her diet or anything and lost 100 pounds. So there's a testimony there. I'm not like an anomaly. I've seen it with other people as well. Once we start letting go, it's amazing how the body starts to release, especially for women. So anyway,
I just want to touch on one other thing with the basics, because you talked about more of the mental health and all that stuff. One of the things that we get from time to time, kind of goes in waves, it seems like, is the concept of resistance training being boring. You do the same things all the time. Like,
it is boring.
Okay, yeah. You can do certain lifts that, accentuate a specific muscle or muscle group, or, they're just something a little bit different, whatever. But ultimately what it boils down to is you're pushing and pulling with your upper body and your lower body.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. So then when you think about that with foods, with whole foods, because another thing we get quite often is whole foods are boring.
Yes, they are.
Boring. They just are the foundation.
Yeah.
When we say whole foods, that doesn't mean raw carrots and chicken breast.
Yeah.
Dry chicken breast, baked, what, you can do all kinds of different things using whole foods and just herbs and spices.
Yeah.
And really, have fun with it and develop different things. But again, just like resistance training goes down to pushing and pulling heavy shit, whole foods, the diet it boils down to whole foods. Use them in a variety of ways. Yeah. But stick with the whole foods.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's boring, you guys. It really is. I mean, yeah. Unless you're trying to train for a specific reason, because I don't want to take away from like mobility or agility or things like that, right? Because those are specific training things. But if you're trying to just build muscle because you haven't done that yet, it is boring. I mean, yes. After a time, at first it's really exciting because you get your newbie gains and you're just like, oh my gosh, and you really start to feel strong. And then come year 5, you're like, okay, I'm doing chest flies again, and I'm doing the bench press again, and and you just do it, right? It just becomes a part of your life. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
The next one. Comparison is stealing our peace.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just read that one.
Yeah.
Because that obviously fits in here, so we're talking about, I mean, again, social fucking media is
It's just a part of everyone's life. Mm-hmm. It is. And so pretending that it's not isn't helping anyone.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you see the 20-year-olds or the fitness models or, the people that aren't, there's so many great quotes about how fake social media can be.
Yeah.
The
but
people
we
that
still buy into it like it's not.
Yeah. The people that aren't living their day-to-day life and make it seem like oh yeah, I'm just out here doing nothing and I'm completely jacked or whatever that might be, when in reality they haven't eaten or had anything to drink in days, and they're emaciated essentially, but they needed to get that video, that picture,
or they're on HRT, right? And I talked to you about this. I don't think I mentioned it on the podcast. Maybe I did. I follow this influencer because she's like 56 and she's totally jacked. And she's always like, this is what I eat in a day. Right. And you're like, wow, I'm looking at it going, I eat less than that. And if I would eat more, then I would be super full. And then it comes out that she's on HRT. Now, I'm not against hormone replacement therapy, right? Especially for menopause, and I get it. But if your hormones are so optimized as a 20-year-old, then I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to be rocking.
Yeah.
Right? So the average person though is not doing that.
No, and then the problem with what we're talking about right here is that average person that isn't doing that sees the 56-year-old like, oh, that's what a 56-year-old is supposed to look like if you're doing this, and I think I'm doing it, and I don't look anywhere close to that.
Right.
So yeah, that's a big problem. That just made me think of that. You showed me a lot of funny videos over the last couple days. But the one about somebody said, go to hell or whatever because they were pissed off. And do you remember that one? And it's a lady doing burpees.
Yeah.
And what was the punchline?
She said something like, I'm already there because I've been working out like this and I'm still chubby.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like so true. And I love people like that where they're on the internet like, yeah, I work out every day. I'm eating all whole foods. And guess what? I still have kind of a belly and I still have a little bit of this. And it's so refreshing to me. It just, because we're constantly either subconsciously or consciously, we're comparing ourselves to other people instead of comparing ourselves to ourselves 6 months ago, 2 months ago, last week, right? And constantly trying to get better. That should be your only comparison. It's really easy. And, I speak for myself included to see women that are in their 20s and they're just, rocking. And I'm sitting here going, well, saggy baggins, like I am just like a walking extra skin person because I've, gained and lost a lot of weight. And now probably just in the last 6 months, I've really, maybe even less, I've really just been like, you know what? This is just what it is. And I can either, be in this constant state of comparison, or I can just accept that I've had a lot of life to live. And guess what? So much better than 5 years ago. So much better. So be careful in the comparison game. I know we all struggle with it, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we don't, right? Just really try to hone in those thoughts or clean up your algorithm, right?
Yeah. I'll let you take this next one.
Okay. We outsource our intuition. Many people no longer trust themselves. Instead, they ask, what does my watch say? What does my app say? What does the internet say? Sometimes we know we're tired, we're stressed, we haven't moved, we've eaten poorly. We don't always need other people's, no, we don't always need another device. Sometimes we need to reconnect with our own bodies. This is huge. Women, I'm going to speak to you. We are constantly outsourcing, oh my goodness, everything. But we're just going to keep this in the context of health. And it goes back up to the comparison. Like, what is your body telling you? Learn to trust that. No matter what other people are saying or causing you to question your intuition, listen to yourself. What does your body need? And that is a muscle that is harder to develop than your glutes. I mean, it just is, because we have all this information coming in. We have, other people, all the things. So at the end of the day, listen to your body and what it needs, basically. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I will talk to the fellas, since you were talking to the ladies.
Well, I can't speak for men on that.
I think it's a human thing. I'll go with, because I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think that does apply to men as well, for your body, for nutrition, movement, that kind of stuff. Also, though, your mental health and your emotional health, and so much of that has been so convoluted for everyone, I think. But if I'm just talking about men here, it's been so convoluted recently, and not even to the the baseline. What is masculine? What is a man? Like, what does that even mean as far as your emotions and your mental well-being and your actions? And it's such a great example of, going back through all this other stuff, outsourcing things, looking at influencers, having all of this information, but not really having wisdom on what it really is. I think guys have it in them a lot more than they are given credit for, to really understanding what they're supposed to be doing. How they're not how they're supposed to be feeling, but like, it's okay to feel certain ways. It's okay if this dude likes golf and you don't like golf. That doesn't make you less of a man, or whatever. Insert a million different things. Or sometimes I cry. I mean, not me, I don't, but some guys do, and that's fine. It doesn't make them less of a man.
Oh, some guys cry, but not me. I'm not a crier.
No, but that's just
okay. I cry for the both of us.
That intuition on, I guess what I'm trying to say is, on all those different levels, is such an individual thing. Yeah. But let it be a guide for you.
Sure.
And anyway.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So don't outsource your intuition. And health isn't just one thing. It's not just your weight or your labs or your abs or your diet, your workout. Health is, like Clint was saying before, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, relational, environmental. When one piece is neglected, the whole system falls. Like, that's what it does. Right? I mean, we just recently, you guys know this, we're moving to Kauai. We were trying to go through an entire podcast without mentioning Kauai. But because it's environmental, right?
We have this exact same thought.
If you are in an area that just isn't where you're supposed to be, that can play a huge role in your mental and emotional health. It absolutely can. So if you neglect one area, and I'm saying this, and here this young man, Brian, that we opened the podcast with, is a good example of this, right? I mean, he's been working on his massive physical health, like over the top. And he now has the autoimmune disease because, the body isn't in balance, right? Maybe there's some mental and emotional and spiritual things that need to happen there. I'm not judging him, but,
Potentially. At least I would be very comfortable saying this. At least there are those things that need to have a focus.
Sure.
And maybe we're completely off base and he's, the most squared away, advanced human mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And I'm assuming not.
Yeah. If he has the autoimmune, I'm gonna guess not. But can you imagine if you put $2 million into each one of these things, right? All of these, maybe things, that'd be an interesting thing. Maybe we can inspire him to do it. He obviously has the funds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I thought of too, and thank you for bringing up Kauai, because I was going to.
Oh, you were? We were trying not to.
Yeah.
I know you guys are nauseated by it.
But it just made me think of a relatively small thing and how that can have impacts, specifically around environmental. Because, I shouldn't say this. There are a significant number of people who live in snowy or potential snowy areas that don't really enjoy the snow and are a little nervous about driving on snowy roads and, all those things. But like where we live, basically from October to March, and not as much in October and not as much in March, but every day is, I hope it didn't snow, or I hope the roads are okay.
Yeah.
I got to get down the hill in the morning, and man, if we got ice overnight, we've had times where we drove out of our driveway and couldn't turn the car.
Yeah.
Because it was so icy. So even just constantly having that thought of, man, I hope the roads are okay tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it's something that I'm concerned with.
Yeah.
That has an impact.
Yes, it does.
Some people, love the snow and don't care about slick roads, and
it
they're
doesn't
just
even
gonna
faze them.
No, because they're like, I hope it snows because I want to go skiing.
Yeah, yeah. And they navigate in it really well. It doesn't cause any kind of stress at all.
Yeah, and so then for them, that isn't an environmental factor.
No.
But so even it doesn't have to be like the big, huge, massive things with any of those mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. Those little components, they add up to a big thing.
It's interesting you mentioned that because we're in fire season right now. And when I smell smoke, I lost a house in a fire, it triggers I have a moment of anxiety over it. Now I've dealt with the fire, but it's like I smell summer. And then it's like this little clench that I do. And then I'm like, no, it's all good. Like, things are good. There's not a fire by you. But it took years for me to get to like peace in that. I would get very dysregulated the first 5 years after the house burned down. So even that, right? Like, that's an environmental stress. It's just an example, right? Now, maybe those smells don't bug you, right? Or it doesn't trigger a fight or flight or kind of a freak out or an anxiety attack in you because, you've had a different life experience. But for me, it does. Yeah. Not as much anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's a great example.
Yeah. All right. So the goal of this is to inspire you to not overcomplicate what the information age has completely overcomplicated. I don't believe you need another supplement. I don't believe that you need, to just get insane about your calories and all the measurements, right? We've talked about this before. Go ahead.
Yeah, that just popped into my head, and you were going down this road exactly with the measurement thing. Because, again, another thing that we talk about a lot with clients is the scale.
Yeah.
And it feels like, as I'm just kind of replaying this in my head as we're wrapping things up, we kind of poo-pooed a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that they're all negative all the time.
No.
If a scale is something because it provides information, but it doesn't give you anxiety, or it doesn't, then use it. If you like to track your steps, because it's just fun,
cool.
And it's a little challenge that you have, like, I'm going to get to 10,000, and then, I'm going to give myself a little cheer and do a little dance or whatever. Do that.
Yeah.
So, we're not trying to say all that stuff is bad and stay away from it and just, live like a caveman. But make sure you really are in tune with what it's doing to you. If you have anxiety, like the one, if you're constantly checking, and 9,981 steps, I got to get out of bed and go pace the hall. Maybe that's a little bit too much.
Right.
You know what I mean? So using all of these things in positive ways, but not becoming beholden to any of them.
Yes. So at the end of the day, you guys, move your body, lift heavy things, eat food that comes from the planet, sleep well, spend time outside, love on your people, and receive love from your people. Manage your stress, laugh often, and always keep learning. There it is, right there, in just a basic nutshell. Mm-hmm. However that looks like for you, because you are an individual, it's going to be different. And so do those things. Let's please stop overcomplicating everything and quit swimming in the soup of information on health and wellness. That's it. That's all I got to say. So thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely day.
And we'll talk to you soon.